welcome to Chris's Comics. This is my spoiler review of No Time to Die. I just got home from the theater and I could not wait to talk about this movie. First and foremost, I am going to talk about spoilers in this, so feel free to watch, but I highly suggest going to see this movie. This was such an emotional roller coaster. I enjoyed this so much, and I think this might be my favorite Bond movie. I literally have no words to describe what I just saw. I enjoyed this so much. I think Daniel Craig is James Bond. There's no better way of saying it. Daniel Craig absolutely kills it, and anytime he's on screen, you feel the essence of Bond, there. He just lives and breathes that character when he's there. I love Daniel Craig. I am sad to see him go because this is his last Bond movie. And again, I am going to go into spoilers, so this is your final spoiler alert. So 3, 2, 1. All right, James Bond dies. This is the first time we've ever seen James Bond die. And I spent the last week watching all of the prior James Bond movies that he was in, just to remind myself of what happened before going to see this. Kind of get my hype level up a little bit as well. And this movie, being so connected to that character, especially after watching all those movies and watching this movie here, it's just such, it's a heartbreak to see him die. But I understand why they did it for many different reasons. And I think it was the best way to cap off Craig's run as James Bond. Now that that's out there, like I said, I am going to talk about other spoilers on this as well, but it's just it's so hard to talk about this movie without talking about James Bond dying. It really is, and the fact that James Bond has a child, that came out of left field. I had no idea that was coming, and I think this is the first time we've ever seen him actually have a child. And I think it's incredible, and it shows the legacy of Daniel Craig's Bond and how he's gone from this character that we met in a bathroom to seeing him blow up, learning that he is officially a father, and seeing him not be able to save himself or be saved. It was just such an emotional roller coaster. I got teary-eyed towards the end of the movie. So now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about the movie. The movie opens up with a flashback to Madeline's childhood. There was a scene in Spectre where she talks about this, and that was a really cool detail, and I wouldn't have remembered that if I hadn't just watched Spectre yesterday, where she talks about the gun. And I thought that was a really cool detail that they put in here. So obviously Savin comes in, kills her mother, she runs away, she shoots him, and he comes back, and then he actually saves her. And then it kind of picks up right where we left off with Madeline and James, kind of doing their own thing on the romantic getaway. And then they find this town where their people are burning secrets, burning wishes and stuff like that. She actually reminds James that this is actually the same town that Vesper is buried in. And I think it's crazy that Vesper has been such a shadow on these movies for all four. She was the first Bond girl for Daniel Craig, and she's just been such a shadow looming since then. I know we didn't really deal with her a lot in Skyfall, but we had him kind of dealing with that in Quantum of Solace, and then it got brought up again in Spectre. And then it got brought up here at the beginning of the movie where he goes to visit her grave, and we find out that it's booby-trapped, with Spectre ready for when he was there, and Madeline tipped him off, which she really didn't, which we find out later on. And James learns that he can't trust her, or he thinks that he can't trust her. I thought the beginning of the movie was really good. Post-opening segment, I thought the chase scene was really cool. Seeing the emotion, almost no emotion from James Bond on here. Like, he's just such straight face as soon as he thinks that Madeline sold him out. And he's just like, he's about ready to let them, like, blow this car up. And he's just sitting there, like, so stoic and just like, okay. And he leaves and puts her on a train and says, I'll never see you again. All right, so let's talk about the opening sequence. Now, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the Bond movies, the opening sequences, and I've enjoyed each and every single one of them. I think the lowest song was the one from Quantum, but the graphics were always so cool because you just keep seeing the desert. I think this is probably my fourth best favorite. I know Billie Eilish is really good. I'm not a big fan of her music. I'm just going to put it out there. I thought the kind of the graphics that they were showing, it was nice to see kind of the foreshadowing going on for what we were going to see in the movie. But not a huge fan of the song, not a huge fan of the graphics. Like I said, I'd probably put it fourth. To me, Chris Cornell is probably his song is probably the best, followed by Adele, and then the one from Spectre. But I digress. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. That's just mine. Billie Eilish isn't my cup of tea. The one thing that did surprise me going through the credits was seeing Jeffrey Wright was back. I did not realize that we were going to see Felix again. As soon as I saw Jeffrey Wright was in the credits, I kind of jumped up in my seat. I was like, ooh, because I always enjoyed them working together. I know we've only seen them kind of interact a little bit here and there, but I love Jeffrey Wright. I'm excited to see him as Commissioner Gordon. But I thoroughly was happy to have him back. And it was nice to see him. We haven't seen him since Quantum, but it was good to see him and Bond interact again. Now, once Bond meets Felix again, he also meets the new 007, which it was kind of rumored that Lashawna Lynch was going to play 007. We knew she was going to be a 00, but we didn't know that she was going to be 007. It was kind of like hinted at, or it was kind of like that secret that nobody wanted to tell or talk about. But it was really cool seeing that dynamic through the movie and she was like, hey, I'm 007 now, hit the bricks. That was pretty cool. Speaking of that, let's talk about the characters in this movie, because we're about to get through some more characters that are introduced. My apologies, it's Lashawna Lynch. So Lashawna Lynch plays the new 007. I thought her character was incredible. I would see a spin-off movie with her in it. I thought she was such a badass. I enjoyed her in Captain Marvel, and I don't think I've really seen her much in much else. But I wouldn't mind a spin-off with her and the crew from MI6 going forward. I thought she was a total badass. I enjoyed the scene towards the end of the movie where she's with the scientist and she's kind of protecting him, and he's like, I can eradicate all your people, and she just turns to him and is like, F off, basically, and pushes him into the poison, and he dies. I thought that was such a great moment. As after seeing everything that's been going on in this country the past 6 years, throughout time, it was nice to see that moment, and I was just like, yeah. Anna de Armas, I loved her character. I absolutely adore her. The only time I've seen her is in Knives Out, and I loved her there, and I did love her here too. I would totally see a movie with her again, or in like a spy movie where she plays this like awkward secret agent who's also a badass. I wish we got more screen time of her, but the little that we got was like such a good cherry. Another new character in here is Sabin, played by Rami Malek. I wasn't a huge fan of him. He didn't quite do it for me. I know Rami Malek is such a great actor. Like, you look at Bohemian Rhapsody and Mr. Robot and a lot of other things, but it just didn't do it for me. Anytime he was on the screen, it was kind of like, okay, next. And I felt like they were kind of trying to rush his story. Like, I know we had the scene at the beginning of the movie with him, and they talked about his past a little bit, but I felt like everything about him was rushed, and you didn't really care about him. So you look at Silva, and you see this character who's introduced halfway through the movie, who has this really great monologue, and then you see him in the cage with M, with the face stuff, with the hydrogen cyanide, what it did to his face. Like, you understand that character so well, even just from those small scenes, and I feel like this movie failed to do that with Sabin. The returning characters in here is great. I love Ray Fiennes. I think he's a perfect M. I was saying to my buddy who I went to the movie with that he is such a great character in everything he's done. Like, you look at some of the stuff he's done recently, he's going to be in the new Kingsman movie. He is Voldemort. He even played Lego Alfred in the Lego Batman movie. Like, he is such a great actor, and he's just so dry. I thought he was great. Moneypenny was amazing. I still enjoy her more in Skyfall than I did here, but I thought she was great. Ben Whishaw as Q coming back, showing that he is open, because he was expecting a date from a man. That was a good moment as well. I'm not sure if he is officially the first openly gay character in a Bond movie, but if so, that's awesome for both Q and Ben Whishaw that got to play that and got to show that in this movie. We also got the return of Christoph Waltz as Blofeld. Now, he was such an incredible, integral part of Spectre, and I thought he was, like, I mean, Christoph Waltz is born to play a villain. The only time that he's not is when he's in Django Unchained. But he was born to play a villain. He just has that feeling. He is so great. I am a little disappointed that we only got one scene with him in it, but it was a really good scene. Like, really good. I like the whole bionic eye thing, how he was walking around with the bionic eye in Cuba while also being in the jail cell. I thought that was really cool. But that was incredible. I think such a great parallel from Spectre was him and Christoph Waltz. Like, they just are almost the polar opposites of each other, and they reflect it, and it shows that on the screen. And it was incredible to watch. So as I mentioned, Jeffrey Wright was back. Unfortunately, he did meet his demise, and I was pretty disappointed in that. But I mean, Bond even says that he had a brother, and it was Felix, and that was such a great moment when he killed Ash, when he was like, "I have a brother. His name is Felix," and just lets the car. I thought that was a good moment. I think this is the most we've seen Felix in a movie, and it was pretty good. I was sad to see him go. I think that was kind of like the first heartbreak that they wanted to give you before the actual heartbreak. That was cool. The girl that played Madeline Swan was good too. She did a great performance in here, especially once they introduced the daughter. She was just such a mom, climbing into the back seat, just holding her and everything like that. That was so good. I thought the concept of the movie was amazing too. The concept is basically there's this virus that M starts to develop with people from Spectre that is a basically cleaner way of taking out targets. Which, I mean, you look at some of these other movies that do this, I mean, you always make that weapon and you don't want it falling into the wrong hands, but it always falls into the wrong hands. Like, people it just doesn't click for them. So I thought that was a pretty cool dynamic that they used, like the fact that she put the stuff on her hand and Bond like grabbed her for like literally 2 seconds, and just that infected him, and that's how he was able to kill Blofeld. I thought that was really cool. I think the whole poison thing is pretty cool. I mean, if you think about it, Rami Malek just basically played a male version of Poison Ivy. That's just kept going through my head throughout the movie as they just kept talking about poisons and stuff like that. That just, of course, my mind goes straight to Batman. But I digress. Now, let's talk about the end of the movie. as well as that big revelation. So towards the end of the movie, Bond is getting ready for the missiles to come to blow up the facility that is making the nanobots that are the poison for the Hercules virus. And Savin stops him and poisons him, so he's never able to touch Madeline ever again. And he realizes, and Q says, that it's permanent, it's eternal, you can never get rid of it. And he is very mortally wounded too, and he has to stay on the island because he'd rather them not live with him not being able to touch than have that pain every day. And I thought leading up to that moment was so powerful. The second you realize, and the second Bond realizes that he's got to go, and as well as Q, it's tough. It's tough to watch. That's when I started tearing up in the movie theater. It was really tough to watch, and it was sad. The goodbyes between him and Madeline, when she told him that their daughter has his eyes, when she makes it very clear that it's not his daughter. When he's like, oh, she's got my eyes. I can see clear as day. But when she says, hey, she does have your eyes, that was such a powerful moment. And that was the last thing he heard. And you can see the almost relief knowing that before he dies in his face. And that it was such a powerful death scene. I think I honestly can't remember such a powerful death scene in a movie like this. I mean, since Tony Stark and Black Widow. But I can't remember such a, like, there's only been so far and few between, like, such these big powerful deaths in movies that they really stick with you. I do like the end of the movie where the gang at MI6 gets together and they do a toast to Bond, and they leave a little glass on the table and they each take their turns cheersing. I thought that was a really great moment. And in the end of the movie, it's Madeline and their daughter driving away saying, hey, I'm going to tell you this story. It's about a man named Bond, James Bond. And that's how we end this saga of Daniel Craig as James Bond. This movie was incredible. There are no other words to describe this. Like I said, there are some hiccups here and there, but this movie was incredible. If you have the opportunity to watch it, to go see it, definitely take that chance. If not, wait for video on demand or something like that. I fully plan on watching this again as soon as it's available. I totally rate this a 5 out of 5. I loved this movie. I'm probably going to go watch all the other Bond movies again just because of how much I enjoyed this movie. Please let me know what you thought of No Time to Die. Please let me know if you have any other thoughts about the movie. Hit the like and subscribe button. I'm also on TikTok. And thank you again for watching.